Manassas Spotlight Award. They're on their way, but they might be a little bit late.
I was going to say, that looked like the two younger.
Yeah, no, they're not here. They're coming here.
They're on their
They
way.
should be here soon. Thanks for the reminder.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park governing body for Tuesday, November 14, 2023. First, we have before us an amended agenda. Please note that 9C is added. 9C is recommendation to the circuit court for the appointment of Ms. Marie Sywak to the Board of Equalization. We also have a closed session. City Attorney, would you provide the citation?
It's paragraph 8 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Thank you. Okay, any other changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So
Move the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Please join us in a moment of silence, and Councilmember Moore, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to public comment time. Is there anyone signed up to make public comment? No. Is there anyone who is not signed up and who would still like to make public comment? Okay, seeing no one and hearing no one, we will move on. There are no public hearings, no recognitions. We have a Spotlight Award, but I see Ms. Prescott is not here yet.
They should be here in about 3 minutes.
Okay, okay, so let's see.
Consent.
Shall we move on to the presentation? What would the governing body like to do?
Consent.
Consent?
Yes.
Oh, excellent idea.
Well, thank you.
Yes, excellent. Okay. Let me locate that. Okay. Consent agenda consists of approval of the governing body for adoption of an ordinance to amend subsection E of section 24-51, parking of commercial vehicles and certain non-commercial vehicles restricted in residential zones of Article 3, parking of Chapter 24, Traffic Code of the Code of the City of Manassas Park, Virginia, to change the weight classification of commercial vehicles and permitted vehicles as presented and subject to final city attorney review, and approval of the governing body for adoption of an ordinance to amend section 19.4-8, snow emergency routes designated of chapter 19.4, snow emergency routes of the Code of the City of Manassas Park, Virginia, to add Connor Drive and Euclid Avenue as presented and subject to final review by city attorney, and recommendation by the governing body to the Prince William Circuit Court for the appointment of Ms. Maria Sywak to serve on the city's Board of Equalization. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Madam Mayor, I have a question, a request.
Yes.
Lana, is it possible that we could get a copy of all the vacant committees that are available? I mean, this position, I'm glad that Maria was able to fill it. I didn't know there was a vacancy in the planning equalization. So if I can get a list of all the vacant, and maybe the rest of the people in the dais would like that as well,
Yes.
so I can help recruit and all that kind of good stuff.
No, that'll be good, because we got meetings coming up, and we need it.
Need some vacancies, so appreciate that.
Can
Thank you.
we also get it with the ending term
Yes.
date? So
They
Yeah.
want
We can all-
ends every year. Yeah, they have to.
We can all make sure that we get it out on our personal networks. Yeah, okay. Lena, have we filled the spot yet with a senior citizen on the Agency for Aging? No, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Can you, in addition to the list that you will send to us, just write up a little blurb, and that way we can just turn that around and get it out as best we can?
I think I have bylaws on most of them.
I beg your pardon?
Most of them I have bylaws or
Oh.
something specifically already written, so.
Okay,
I can
okay,
send
thank
those
you.
also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are they still on their way, Laszlo? Yeah,
Yes. Not sure what's going on, but.
okay.
For the schools?
Huh?
Schools?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We'll have
Here
to.
they come.
Oh.
Oh, there they
All
are, okay. Oh, super.
Yeah, we're on your agenda right now.
Okay. Super.
You guys want to vote first and then?
Okay. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to 7A. This is a recognition of Ms. Jacqueline Prescott for her over 13 years of outstanding service as a member of the Department of Social Services.
Can we wait 1 second? She's in the restroom.
Okay, okay,
My apologies.
okay. We weren't ready.
I thought we were, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, that's okay.
Well, while we're waiting, we can make some announcement about some upcoming events.
I'm sorry.
I said, while we're waiting, we can make announcements about some upcoming events.
Absolutely, sure.
We've got the tree lighting. What day is the tree lighting?
December,
I don't have a calendar in front of me, so.
What do you do?
December 1st.
December 1st at the rec center. Okay, and then we've got the parade the next day. And then, of course, we have the Winter Lights Extravaganza, which is open. And so people please register. We're hoping to, have more than we did last year. And what other?
Come to your house and.
Yeah, that's right. Yessie and I are very good at knocking on people's doors. And I think there's some things with Santa, right? There's a breakfast with Santa.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have the Dickens Holiday Market. That's on the 9th
Okay.
here on the plaza.
I guess I probably should say that in the microphone.
Yeah.
But-
The night.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have the, is it on? Yes,
Yes.
can you hear me? All right, we have the Dickens Holiday Festival here on the plaza on December 9th. I believe it's 11 to 4. Could be wrong on the times, but it's around that. And then that is also the day of the Santa's ride through the city with the fire department, where they'll ride on the fire truck through the city. And then I want to say it's the following Saturday, so the 16th, I believe, is Breakfast with Santa. Not 100% sure on that one. And I don't know the times, but you do need to pre-register for that one.
Okay, thank you. Any other events or items that someone would like to mention?
We have the preschool Thanksgiving dinner this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the community center.
Oh, yeah, that's a great
The
event.
seniors, right?
Right. And we
The
also have-
seniors, yes,
The
at Park.
seniors, yes.
And we also have the inaugural
Same day.
coordination or inaugural meeting of Keep the Park Beautiful on Thursday at 7 p.m. in here.
That's not going on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a full agenda.
Yes.
We also have town halls. I've been doing town halls the last week.
Oh, yeah.
So tomorrow night, we have one in Spanish here, and then Thursday, we have one at the police station
Yeah,
for the west side of the city.
yeah. It's all good.
At 7 p.m., unfortunately, so sorry.
Oh,
for it.
okay.
It's all right.
Okay, moving on to our next item is a recognition of Ms. Jacqueline Prescott for her over 13 years of outstanding service as a member of the Department of Social Services. Whereas the governing body of the City of Manassas Park are extremely grateful for the great service provided to our community by all of our employees. And whereas the governing body desires to recognize outstanding performance of our employees as they accomplish important projects, innovate solutions, and/or are recognized by residents and/or partners in our community and region for their outstanding work. And whereas Jacqueline Prescott began her Manassas Park social services career in the services unit in December 2010. And whereas Jacqueline has worked for the city of Manassas Park as a family service specialist and will end her career as the family services supervisor on November 24th, 2023, when she enters retirement. And whereas Jacqueline provided excellent service as the family services supervisor for our city residents, helping them feel safe and supported in unfavorable situations. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing body hereby recognizes the years of service and dedication of Jacqueline Prescott as the family services supervisor as she enters retirement. Be it further resolved that Jacqueline Prescott is awarded with a Performance Spotlight Award certificate for her outstanding service by the governing body and signed by both the mayor and the city manager of Manassas Park. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words? We invite you to do that.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, Governing Body, thank you.
Yeah. Could you speak directly into the microphone? Thank you.
It's good seeing everyone again. I just wanted to say thank you, and I enjoyed my time. And a little correction, I started in 2007, September the 17th of 2007.
Okay.
Then I had a break, and then I came back. But thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you.
Is she going to be?
Brandy, huh? Excuse me?
Is she going to be presented with the award?
That's what I'm going to ask right now. Randy, did you want to say a few words before you and Laszlo present her with the certificate?
Sure. I just want to say thank you to Jacqueline. She has been a very dedicated city employee for many years. At times she was a resident as well. And she has been one of the biggest advocates of the city of Manassas Park, especially of social services. So thank you. And she has taught me so much as well. Just a great individual and a great just person all around. So thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
There we go. Figured it out. To line up.
Seems really good.
Thank you, Ms. Prescott.
Jacqueline, I'd like to say thank you, because I remember you at my first term, and we got really excited in that one family meeting, and you were really talented and skilled, and I think you should be required to stay, because you're so talented. But I wish you the best. Thank you.
Barbados is calling.
Have them
Yeah.
wait a year.
I also, too, want to say thank you, Ms. Prescott, for your service to our city, having foster kids in the system and working with you and the rest of the DSS staff. It's just been amazing, and you guys are just a phenomenal team, and it's just been a joy to work with. So just thank you for your dedication and commitment to our city, and particularly our most vulnerable in our city. Thank you, Ms. Prescott.
We wish you a wonderful retirement, whatever
Yes.
you choose to do. Thank you. You're more than welcome to stay with us for the rest of the evening and the rest of the meeting, but we understand if you have other things that you need to do. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to number 8, which is information. We have Mr. David Lyon with us, Executive Director of Finance for Manassas Park City Schools. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Michelle.
Yeah.
Members of the governing body, good evening.
And if you could speak directly into the microphone, that would be super. Yeah, it's
There we go, sorry.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Michelle, members of the governing body, and thank you for having me here this evening. Just give me a second, bringing this up. So this evening, I have 2 presentations. Our first presentation is a summary of our fiscal 23 budget year, to let you know how things closed out there. My second presentation will be my fiscal year 24 budget amendment. First I want to start off with is, as many of you know, and participated in helping us develop our next strategic plan. And all of our budget decisions are related directly back to our strategic plan, and we have 3 new goals, or pillars as we like to call them. And the themes are reimagining school experience, building community and connection, and creating safe places. All of our decisions, our budget priorities, everything relates right back to our new strategic plan. Looking back at fiscal year 23, we look at revenue by source. The Commonwealth of Virginia provided about 64%. The governing body provided about 25%. Next behind that was our federal grants, which again include the ESSER grants, which was 10.5%. And then local are other resources such as rebates, refunds, local grants, and things of that nature. We break down our expenditures by category. About 78% of our budget is in salaries and benefits, followed by materials and supplies, purchase services, and then capital outlay and other charges. Overall, our budget summary. This financial statement shows our funds from left to right. We have 5 funds: the federal, our general operations, medical trust, our capital fund, and food service. So looking down through these funds, our federal fund always balances out. We had about $3.9 million in revenue from our federal grants, and of course the same in expenditures. We had about $8,700 in federal expenditures that we had to book back to our general operating fund because you don't always zero out naturally. Sometimes the expenditures will exceed our federal projections. In our general fund, we had about $47.3 million in revenue, and expenditures about $46.1. At the time I put together this presentation, I had projected a balance of unexpended funds of about $1.2 million. Now that has come down slightly below 1.2, it's about 1.175. But that's what I anticipate returning back to the governing body to book back to that stabilization line that we have in the budget with the governing body. All the other funds balances out. I'll be speaking more about the capital fund. I did have to make an adjustment to that as far as how the revenue was displayed on fiscal year 24, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Food service intentionally overspent the revenue because they need to bring down their fund balance, and that's why you see there a $258,000 shortfall, but the fund balance of $1.2 million covered that. The only carryover request I have from fiscal year 23 to 24 is $11,812. This was a health workforce grant, funds that we were front-loaded with, and we have multiple years to spend it. It did go, we have traditionally put those funds into 205, our general fund, so they commingle with our other funds that typically we would return at the end of the year. So we're just asking back from that $1.1 million, $11,812, because that money belongs to that grant. And I'll speak to that in a little bit too. I have a solution to avoid commingling down the road. So looking at our capital fund, this, I believe this past year was our first year to really have separate funding from the governing body, which we appreciate, and we thank you for that. And we also had revenue from the state, was a one-time injection of revenue of about $1.9 million, which they stipulate certain expenditures could qualify for that money. So I have split them out here. With the money we received from the governing body, we completed a purchase of 2 buses. Our roofing project finished finally at the high school. We finished some costs on our transportation fuel management system, and then our high school outdoor air unit replacement. That was some initial work. Actually, that project just finished this month. So that project crossed over two fiscal years for a total of about $380,000. So that left us with a carryover of $624,000 out of the governing body's capital revenue. Now that $600,000 is the matching for the expense on the outdoor air units that just was installed on the high school. The state money of $1.9 million, we used that money to pay for the fencing around Cougar Elementary, the parking lot repaving project at the middle school, the elementary cell signal project, which is a project, what I understand, has been on the books for a few years, but since it was so expensive, it just couldn't get done. But with this money, we were able to get it done. If you ever visit the elementary campus now, no matter where you walk in those buildings, you'll have cell signal, which is a great safety factor for everyone. We had bleacher replacements, so now they're ADA compliant at the high school. So that brought a total of $629,000 of qualifying expenses, excuse me, to against the $1.9 million. That left us with $1.3 million in carryover from the state revenue. Now, just jumping forward a little bit, in my FY24 budget amendment, when I developed that budget, we had not received those funds yet from the state, and I thought I would receive those over 2 years, so I showed it as revenue, but I'm adjusting it in my budget so you can see it's down in the fund balance carryover. So a total projection of a fund balance for the capital fund is about $1.9 million going into FY24. Then I provide a quick comparison of 22 to 23 by fund and category by revenue and expenditures. And that concludes my FY23 budget summary presentation. Any questions?
Any questions or comments? Questions or comments?
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on to the amendment presentation. Okay. Same as before, our strategic plan correlates to our budget priorities. Just to revisit that capital fund, I typically, as a budget amendment, I wouldn't include a revenue revision unless it impacted the appropriation request, and in this instance it doesn't, but I wanted to be transparent going forward. You'll see on the financial statements these changes in the revenue for the capital fund. Initially, when FY24 budget was developed, the initial projection was we would get $1.6 million from the governing body for our capital fund projects. But working with the city manager, we were able to put out one of our bigger projects another year, which would cost $1 million. Well, half of it would cost $1 million. So our adjusted revenue for the current FY24 year from the governing body for capital projects is $637,000, but we'll receive that other money next year in FY25. And then in the state line, this is what I was speaking to previously, that state grant money, I had showed as revenue here, but really it's beginning fund balance, so I just made that adjustment. And now I have to show as additional revenue with the high school air unit project being completed, the other $600 matching funds from the state for that $1.2 million project. So I just want to make sure I was transparent with that. So altogether, I'm not asking for any additional appropriations in my capital fund, just that revenue revision, and at the bottom line, I project at a minimum a $46,000 carryover into FY25. But I anticipate it'll be greater than that. This is just for informational purposes, but it goes back to that carryover request from 23 to 24. I've asked my board, and they approved it to add a 6th fund in our budget, and I'm going to call it, each fund has a number. It'll be 211 other grants, and I will be putting grants in this fund that are multiple year grants, so so they're not commingled with our general fund, and I don't have to keep coming back asking for grant funds to be transferred back that are multiple year period of performance. And there's that carryover request again. I think everyone is probably aware, back in September, Governor Youngkin and the General Assembly passed another FY24 budget amendment. In that amendment for public schools, it provided 3 additional streams of revenue. The first one is to provide an additional 2% compensation supplement effective January 1 of 2024 for SOQ positions. Now, every school system in the state has more than SOQ positions. You can't run a school system on the bare minimum that the state funds for. So we believe that if we give everyone we believe if you give 2% compensation supplement to the SOQ positions, we need to do it for all the positions in our school system to keep it equitable. So they are providing $204,000. I have another slide coming up on what the additional cost will be for us locally. They also provided $613,000 to help offset the support position cost. Initially, the ratio was 21 to 1,000. Now it's 24 to 1,000. And then they provided $1.8 million for all-in funding. And for those, anyone who's listening may not know what that is, that's intensive tutoring from the governor. That money is very specific what it's supposed to be used for. We had to submit this plan to the state for approval and spell out each expenditure. Very similar to how we did with ESSER and the ARP funds. So for a total of a $2.694 million additional revenue. So this to summarize the revenue for the additional revenue in the budget amendment. The carryover of $11,812 going into the local grant fund to 11. I am also going to place that $1.8 million for all-in funding into that fund because it's a multi-year period of performance. We can use the next 3 years to spend that $1.8 million. The $200,000 to $600,000 from the governor's amendment budget will go into 205 or $800,000. And then we have at Title I, we received additional $73,000 in the allocation that was not in the original budget. And then we had ESSER funds that we needed to add, that we still have to expend, and I need to add to the current budget that was not in the original approved amount. So over a total revenue of $3.1 million. I want to get back to the governor's 2% compensation supplement. Though this is nice and it helps with the cost of living for our employees, to provide it to everyone in the school system, it will cost an additional $305,000 in our FY24 budget that we didn't budget for. However, we do have positions that haven't been filled, so we will offset that with the savings of those unfilled positions at this time. Now, those positions that we're cannibalizing for this are open ESOL positions and school counselors. So they're mission critical positions. They're SOQ, that most of them are SOQ required. All the ESOL positions are required. We don't anticipate being able to fill them. However, if we come across a candidate, we will fill them. And I just say this because if by some chance we get lucky and we can fill these positions, I may be back in the spring asking for help with that $300,000. But for right now, we're going to manage and definitely try to cover that. Along those lines, this supplement accelerates our pay scales quicker than we anticipated we would be accelerating them. Our pay scales will go up by 2% effective January 1 for any new hires after that. And then when we're building the FY24 budget, now we're building the FY25 budget on a pay scale that went up by 2%, which was never originally in our game plan. So this becomes almost really an unfunded mandate going forward on our system. And just give you a heads up, as we try to stay competitive with our neighbors, Manassas City is doing the 2%, but they're also adding 1%. They're doing 3% on January 1. Prince William County is doing 2%, but they're pretty aggressive with their pay scale probably in FY25. Now, we can't stay neck and neck with the county. That's just impossible. But we do try to stay competitive with the city. And I just say that because when we present our FY25 budget, we may be asking for some of the funds from the stabilization line if we need it to stay competitive with our neighbors on our pay scale. Just giving you a heads up on that. Okay, so this FY24 budget amendment, additional expenditures, mirror exactly what the revenue table I just showed you, the same totals. So the revenue was at 3.1 million, and the additional appropriation for expenditures is the same amount, $3,163,000, which is all covered by federal and state funds at this time, and our unfilled positions. Then I provide you with a simple financial statement here just showing the original approved amounts for each of those funds, the amendment totals in addition to the original approved budget, and what that amended total would be. And in this amendment, I have asked for changes to the federal fund, the general fund, the capital fund. Well, the capital fund isn't a change. I'm just showing the difference in where the revenue is placed. And then the local 211, a new fund. The other funds were untouched, so I just left them in the gray column there. And then you can see the total. Our original budget, overall budget, was $56,033,000. I'm asking for an additional $3.1 million on top of that for a total of $59,196,093. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lyon. That was a great presentation, lots of detail.
No,
and I don't have any questions, but I think we need to thank you for the high level of cooperation that you folks have had with the city. I mean, we very much appreciate that, and we also want to thank you for the transparency, the level of transparency that we've experienced with the schools, and for the school's consistent open-door policy with city staff. That is so important, and we appreciate that. So thank you, sir.
And I think that's a two-way street. You have welcomed us in, and we feel greatly supported.
Yeah.
And no, we work hard to make sure you guys achieve your goals too, and we're one. So that's
and
great.
we appreciate that
You bet.
also. And I know it's a two-way street. I know we're both working hard at
Yes.
this, and we're going to go places.
Yes, we are. We are. Yeah, we appreciate all the support.
Yes. Any comments or questions?
Yes. Go
Councilmember
ahead.
Miller.
Mr. Hasid.
Okay. Hey, thank you for the presentation.
You bet.
My question, I guess, for the 2% compensation, now, how does that fit into your strategic plan? Because you guys are also offering 2% to your SOQ positions as well. So will that balance out, or are you going to say, no, we're going to have 2% here and 2% from our strategic plan as well?
That's a great question. We know when we start to develop this FY25 budget, which we're just beginning to do that, we know we will have to ask more than 2% COLA on our next scale. This added 2% on top of whatever we'll ask. And if we don't, we will be further behind our closest competitor, which is Manassas City. Now, they did 3%, so they added 1%. On top of the governor's budget, and I congratulated them. Good job. But we certainly can't do that. But we work toward presenting a balanced budget. But we've done that since Dr. Saunders has been here. I do anticipate maybe not being able to do that with trying to stay competitive and maybe asking for a few of the dollars from that stabilization line. But we'll see when we get there. We have to see too where the other systems fall, because we all talk to each other. We try to, they'll let us know what they're developing their budget, and we'll try to stay as close as we can. I doubt we'll stay toe to toe, but we'll try to stay close.
Okay.
Because the challenge just to add is that everyone got the 2%, so
Right.
it's not tapping into the market competitiveness. It's just
Exactly,
raising
because
where
it
everyone
increases
is.
the whole
Yeah, it's just increasing our costs.
bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Just raise the bar.
Yeah. That's it for now.
No follow-up?
No.
Councilmember Moore?
Just thank you, Ms. Lyons, for the excellent presentation. I wanted to ask the city manager, as far as timing, When will we be voting on the amendments for the 24, in December or January?
That's going to be your discretion. We
Okay.
plan on presenting at the first meeting of December. The budget amendment will probably hold a public hearing at the second meeting of December. It's your discretion if you want to vote on it at the second meeting of December, or if not, in the first meeting of January. I think the last couple of years, you've been doing it in the first meeting of January, but it's going to be your discretion. And to his point about that 305, the 305,000 that we need to be ready for, we have a pretty sizable surplus I'm going to be presenting to you all, so we can probably just tuck aside some money just in case the schools will need it later in the spring.
Great idea. Thanks, Mr. Manager.
Thank
Do you
you.
have a follow-up?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, you said that there are a few positions that are not filled that are SOQ mandated. So what are there repercussions for that?
Well, you have to submit corrective action plans. You know, how do you plan to fill the positions, which we will do. They typically do not withhold funds,
Okay.
but they do require corrective action plans and steps, and our recruiting is targeted to help fill these positions. We're in good company because almost every school system has the same vacancies, so that helps a little bit. But yeah, corrective action plans is usually the way you have to approach it.
As long as they're not withdrawing funds.
Yes. That hasn't happened yet, and that has not been my experience.
Good. All right, thanks.
Okay. Questions or comments? No? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay. Moving on to 8B, which is flood management presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the governing body. So I want to say about a year ago, we had a flooding incident on Manassas Drive where the road was inundated for about 20-30 minutes, and it was a significant risk to the traffic or the vehicles trying to pass through at that time. We held a meeting afterwards where we talked about kind of the root causes of that, and I described the Bowman study and kind of what was being looked at for drainage analysis. So tonight, we want to give kind of a two-part presentation, one on kind of our posture for how we currently manage these kinds of emergencies, and Sarah will be briefing that part, and then we'll turn it over to Public Works to discuss what they've been doing with the weather stations to get better prepared for anticipating these kinds of events, and then more importantly, the Bowman study results. What the projects are that they recommended, what the total cost is, and then I'll cap it at the end with kind of my recommendations for how to proceed, and just opening up to you all for some options for you all to provide us guidance on what you'd like to see in the CIP. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sarah now to kick this off.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. From an emergency management standpoint, if I can figure out how to use this clicker. I'm not going to use it. Yeah. There's just lots of. Sorry. From the emergency management standpoint, we have 5 pillars to emergency management, and the first from stormwater management cycle is the structural and risk assessment. Included in that is investing in the CIP for stormwater management infrastructure, and that's more of what Alan is going to talk about with the Bowman study and kind of what structural changes we can make in our stormwater management system. But it's also involving zoning, building, and code enforcement with issuing citations and looking into, making sure we have enough impervious surfaces and such. Next, structural mitigation. They're doing recurring drain inspections, and they're also checking out the retention ponds and the stormwater management or the stormwater drain throughout the city. Whenever we know that a tropical storm or a large storm is coming through, Public Works is going out and they're checking those things to make sure that they're not blocked up so that the water has a place to flow. And then in October of last year, they did do an inspection on the drain pipes with a camera that goes in the pipes, and they weren't able to find any blockages. And I'll be able to show you an image from that on the next slide. there we go. Incident preparedness. So with that, we're constantly monitoring the weather, tropical storms when they're coming through, but even just storms throughout the summer. You probably noticed on social media and on our website, and even the emails we were sending out to you all, letting not only you guys know, but also our residents know when something is coming. Just having that wherewithal to get people warned on, making sure things like their tree limbs that could fall down are taken care of prior to the storm happening. That's from the emergency management standpoint, but from the stormwater part, again, it's checking the drains and the stormwater retention ponds to make sure that the water has a place to flow. We're sending out notifications on the website, social media, Smart 911, and Everbridge. And then our admin team is modifying their hours and make sure they're monitoring the storm and declaring an emergency if necessary. And then we also have sandbags that we'll issue out if we think that the storm is going to get to that level. We'll send out a warning to residents to let them know where they can come and pick them up. The issue with the sandbag issuing is that it does take quite a bit of time, and it's not something that we can necessarily make a ton of them preemptively prior to a storm because they don't last very long. I mean, even just sitting unused, the bags break down and they're kind of unutilized. So we really only like to pull that out when we know that the storm is imminent and have residents come and pick those up. Then the incident response, when the incident is happening, whoever's first on scene, they'll notify the city leaders and partners and notify city staff. And then we're continuously letting residents know via the website, social media, Smart 911, and Everbridge. And then where applicable, we'll designate closures or delays in operating, declare an emergency, activate the EOC if we need to, and then get everyone in and start making decisions and getting finance and everyone involved. And then finally, incident recovery. Continuous communication with residents is key. Ending the emergency declarations if we did put those into place. We're doing damage assessments and reimbursement process for anything that we had to fix or get repaired. We're taking records and expenditure tracking, and then we're closing out reporting and talking to FEMA on those things. Then the next is the city's specific flood response plan. First is situational awareness, like we mentioned in the previous slide, just knowing when a storm is coming, but also kind of knowing what our infrastructure can manage or can handle. And so part of that is knowing more about our stormwater system. Our stormwater system consists of 63 documented outfalls, approximately 42 best management practice structures such as ponds and filtration devices. Storm structures include curb inlets, yard inlets, and any method by which stormwater is collected and conveyed into a managed system. A mostly unseen conveyance system of underground pipe, culverts, man-made channels, and swales. And then as you'll see from when Alan discusses that we do have an outdated design as determined by the Bowman study. Even with infrastructure enhancements and preparedness activities, flash flooding may still occur. The city is conducting comprehensive drainage analysis via the Bowman study. Then you'll see I was talking about the drain pipe inspection, and that goes under mitigation and preparedness window, making sure that we are prepared should there be an event in a flood event. So making sure that our pipes are clear and free of debris so that water can easily float through them. And you'll see this is kind of a picture right here in the yellow of our drain pipes, and they seem to be in great condition. And then again, letting people know that we have sandbags for them to pick up, and then we encourage them to check social media and the website and trying to get out information as much as possible. We do issue sandbags when we know that a storm is predicted to produce 1 inch or more of water in an hour. So that is a pretty high threshold. Then we want to make sure that we start to let people know what's going on through messaging mediums. That's in the start and the duration of the rainfall. So we put things on the variable message boards, on the website, through Everbridge, through Smart 911, Facebook, and Twitter, updating everyone about what's going on, what's expected, and any safety measures that they can take. And then finally, when there is a flash flood, the first people on the scene should notify the city leaders. They'll close the road until Public Works can get there. The threshold for closing a road is once we can't see the road, then we're going to close it. We then would immediately notify residents in that area, when there is a flooded road so that they know to avoid that area. Another thing to consider that we'll talk about in a future slide are there are sensors out there that will sensor water pooling in certain areas of the city or on certain historically flooded roads. And those, once it activates, it'll activate a blinking sign to warn residents that ahead the road is flooded. But that also integrates with Everbridge, which will then send out text message or voice alerts to residents to let them know that, hey, in this area the road is flooded, so please avoid it, as a way to further let them know what's going on in the city. So some road closure policies, excuse me, in our region. After surveying these local jurisdictions, none of them really had any specific road closure policies that really differed from what we've kind of come up with, which is, when we notice that the road is, when our first responders notice that a road is not visible, they close it down. A couple of them do have the sensors that we were talking about. That includes Fairfax County, and then it looks like Loudoun County as well has some sensors that will alert people when the road is flooded. And then next up is Alan.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, Mayor and members of the governing body. Let's see.
You're going to have to use the mouse to click through it.
Gotcha. First, I'd like to discuss briefly what's going on in Prince William County in terms of their strategy for approaching flooded roads. Their first phase, they've implemented high water warning signs at roadways that have typically overtopped by streams during heavy rainfall events. And there are 3 road crossings where they've done the most swift water rescues. And there is one significant hazard dam operated by Prince William County, which is Lake Jackson. The second phase is high water warning signs and road closure barriers. Those are the remaining road crossings with a history of swift water rescues. And the phase 3 is to implement a comprehensive array of rain and stream gauges to monitor flows throughout the county. That's useful not only for emergency preparedness, but also for long-term planning. The City of Manassas Park has installed a weather station. We installed one last year at Public Works that gathers rain, wind, and temperature information. And this past year, we've added the fire station and Blooms Park. The great thing about these gauges is they can send us text messages with predefined events so that we can get real-time data and be able to respond quickly. Now, this next slide shows the rainfall data for September 12th, 2022. Now, the whole 1 inch per hour is by itself not really terribly intense, but the problem is once heavy rainfalls start, the intensities vary. And this storm illustrates that beautifully. The individual bars are broken into 5-minute increments, so you can see the really intense part of the storm started. We had 0.23 inches in 5 minutes. And by the time we get up to 1 inch, that's after 15 minutes. And at this point, the streets are flooded and things can get very dicey for vehicular traffic. So it's very important to be able to get the word out quickly to both the citizenry and to emergency services. As I said, the weather stations collect rainfall volume, wind speed, and temperature. And we get alerts, not just the superintendent, but several of us get alerts when the cumulative rainfall event hits 0.25 inches. Now, if that's over half an hour, that's not a big deal, but if it's in 10 minutes, it's time to start making phone calls. We get alerts for high winds over 35 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on this one real quick just because Francis Rath helped find these sensors. These are the sensors we were talking about that we could put on. I think the suggestion is on Lower Kent Drive, and then on Manassas Drive around the ones between 160 and 217 Manassas Drive. Those are our two flood-prone roads in the city. What those sensors will do is when they start to notice water pooling on the road, it'll flash warning lights so that residents or travelers are aware, and then it will send out, or it links in with Everbridge, so it can send out notifications to not only staff but also our residents or people in the area to warn them that the road up ahead is flooded. We would have to install the poles, but the contractor would install the sensors and set up the system. The cost is $15,000 per site, which we would need 2 sites. And then there is a maintenance cost per year of about $5,000. So that's just something, Lazlo will go into more detail about that, but those are the sensors.
The city used its on-call engineering contractor, Bowman Engineering, to perform drainage studies in the 2 basins where the city has experienced the most flooding problems. The first was the Lower Kent Drive study. That's the area of Kent Drive north of Manassas Drive. The map is kind of funny the way I've put it there, and the reason I turned it sideways is so that it's oriented north-south, so it's more intuitive when you look at it. I'm sorry, I need to go back to this. This is this map here, the inundation areas shown are the inundations that will occur after the projects Bowman has suggested for the city. It should be remembered that there is no way to prevent flooding. The most we can do is reduce risk, and that's what these projects will do. This is the second area that was studied, was upstream of Courtney Drive, which actually extends all the way to Evans Street. This entire area here had inundation problems in the area behind the church and along the homes along that area. This is the first set of projects from the Lower Kent Drive study that Bowman had suggested. Project 1 is over here by Calvin, what street is that there? Meeker. I'm sorry, it's too small for me to read. This is in the middle of Kent Drive, runs right between 2 homes, and this is over by Public Works. These project costs here that are listed for projects 1, 2, and 3, it should be noted that they are very preliminary costs and they are just construction costs. They don't include engineering costs, contingencies, potential costs for moving utilities. So I just want to emphasize that right there. This is just a planning level estimate. Now what I did for these Courtney Drive projects to keep the maps from being too busy, I did 2 maps, showed 3 projects on each one. So here's, this is along Manassas Drive. This project here is along Old Centerville Road, and this is the downstream end. It picks up a little bit just off Courtney, I believe, and then there are some, what the dots are, they represent upgraded catch basins, because some of the catch basins have very short throats. So sometimes the problem is not the pipe capacity, but the water can't get into the inlet. Sometimes the water, once you allow the water to get into the inlet, then the pipe capacity kicks in as an issue. So that's 3 projects right there, and here are the other 3. The total cost, estimated cost in this preliminary study for Lower Kent Drive is $1,070,000. The Courtney Drive projects cumulatively are $6.42 million for a total of $7.49 million.
Thank you, Alan and Sarah. So we asked Bowman and also Alan and Calvin, the team, to really prioritize the projects by those that are going to have the greatest impact for mitigating flooding risk. And you can see that here between projects 1 through 9 in terms of priority and how they're numbered in the previous slides there. So my recommendation, really, you're going to see an agenda item later on tonight called a BRIC grant. That's a federal grant from FEMA to try to tackle these priorities 1 and 2. Right, but if we're denied that grant, my recommendation is in FY25 we use stormwater infrastructure funds to go ahead and at least knock out that priority 1 project, and then keep aggressively trying to pursue grants for projects 2 through 7, which are a little bit more high value. But at least, for projects, there's a little bit of overlap. Projects 4 through 9, we kind of phase it in each year, do a project over maybe 2 years at a time. And space it out to try to knock out those projects to decrease risk. But of course, the timing is going to be up to you all for how aggressively you want to pursue that. And so just kind of a summary of everything that we talked about tonight. So that what we're doing right now, so first responders, we've instructed our police, our public works, et cetera, monitor the roads during rain activities, rain events, and if they see, again, flooding events, to immediately notify us. Public Works, of course, will also be tracking the weather stations as well to give everyone a heads up, and they will be closing the roads as needed, but police will do that at first, because they're usually going to be first on scene. And again, we'll be using those weather stations to track. We'll get text alerts from Alan and the team about how fast the rainfall is coming down and recommendations to push out messaging right now. For you all, kind of decision points for CIPs going forward, or even the budget amendment per your wishes. Kind of the two major decision points for you all is how you'd like us to proceed. The weather stations were very small investments, so we knocked those out immediately. The next items, of course, are the signals that Sarah was talking about, where the sign would light up saying road flooded ahead, right? And then we'd all get text messages, potentially even residents. We can set it up so it will text to residents to stay away from this section of road which is flooded. So that'd be the quick way to get an alert out to people so that they hopefully won't try to drive there in case, again, it takes some time for PD to get out there and close the road, and Public Works as well. Because in that event last year, PD notified Public Works. By the time Public Works got out there, the system had drained. Right, so again, the system work, it's just the rainfall, again, it's just like if you pour a lot of water in your bathtub, right, it takes some time for that water to go down. That's the same thing with a major rain event. And then really a consideration analysis from you all, and thinking about what you want to do for this Bowman study, right? How aggressively do we want to pursue these projects? Do we want to just go after, keep trying to get grants for these, earmarks? I will say this is very competitive, and other parts of the country probably have a greater flooding challenge than we do, so I'm not sure how competitive we're going to be, but we're doing our best for our residents to try to secure this federal money. But again, I think ultimately we may have to pitch in a little bit each year of city money across a couple of years to knock out a project at a time over a decade to try to mitigate risk for our residents as weather events become more severe.
The grants may be hard to get, but it's important to try for.
Yeah, and we may get lucky. It may be that not enough people are applying. We did a great job with getting Merchant McIntyre on the team, so we're a little bit more aggressive with grants.
Exactly.
So that may be an avenue for us to secure some.
That was a great presentation. I mean, staff provided a lot of detail, very, very informative. I think all of this work is important. I guess it's just a matter of timing, grants, and affordability. Anyway, comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I do know the poor folks down there in Lower Kent do get slammed when we have a lot of bad weather.
Can you speak directly into
Sorry. My voice is also kind of scratchy. The folks on Lower Kent, they get slammed every time there's bad weather. And if you've driven down there, literally, I think the road kind of dips, doesn't it? In Lower Kent?
Does it dip? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a no-brainer to fix that. If we didn't get any grants, though, we're looking at, if I calculated this right, probably about 18 years. Is that 2 at a time?
Depends how aggressive we want to be, but that'd be the conservative approach, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is, given the phone calls that I got last year and what I saw the flooding in my front yard, which was nothing compared to what those folks on Manassas Drive encountered, we really don't have a choice but other than to fix the issue. I think at the very minimum, the sensor, the lights, not the lights, but the signs with the sensors, at the very minimum, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah, the flood signals to alert drivers.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a follow-up?
to follow.
No.
Okay.
I think you should do both. I think you need to be more aggressive on the second one, though. I wouldn't want to see 18 years. I'd like to see it under a decade, especially. I think your team's very good at getting grants, so I would like to see it all out within 7 years, 5 to 7 years. I know that's very aggressive, but that would be the time frame I'd like to see.
Yeah. Do you have a comment or question? Comments or question?
No question.
Yeah?
You can go on. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I just want to say I agree with adding all of these to the CIP.
Yeah, thank you, staff and Laszlo, for the presentation. I think it's very important. I just had some questions as far as data and statistics. The flooding signals and sensors, what kind of problems? Do we have statistics of cars that have actually been immobilized? I mean, sometimes you can see you drive through and you get to the other side, but do they actually get stuck because the rain is so deep? And what are the numbers? How many trucks, cars, vehicles have actually been caught in Lower Kent or some of the other places?
We have not had major instances like that where a car has been stuck. Calvin, do you recall if we had, even during that incident?
Yeah, that's my
police
concern
have-
about the sensors. I think it's one of those flashing things that looks pretty but doesn't do much. I'd rather see the money put in fixing the problem and a long-term solution. I mean, I won't vote against if you guys want sensors, but I think we should be aggressive. I agree with Mr. Carrera that 18 years is too long. I think Councilmember Mensing, Vice Mayor Van Mensing, excuse me, is right that this should be part of our CIP and it should be aggressive.
Yeah.
As we get extra revenue, as we get reserves and things of that nature, we should put to this problem. I'm not sure I'm excited about the sensors, though. Because there's a $5,000 a year maintenance. For what?
Well, my concern by not having the sensors is there are a lot of children that do ride their bikes and play on
Well, that
the
was my
street.
question to Kelvin. Has there been people stuck in water? I mean, it's good to say anecdotally, but have we had problems where the police had to run in, or our fire department, and rescue drowning children in the floodplain? And Calvin is shaking his head no.
We're just put a sign without the lights. But without the flashing lights, you know what I'm saying? Just if you want to say, high rise water ahead or something.
Oh, a sign.
Like a sign.
Yeah, a sign. That works.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I'm on the same boat. I was gonna say, I don't know about the 5,000 a year maintenance for the flashing signals. Just a regular sign saying, up ahead, high rising water will be, sufficient enough.
Yeah, and just to clarify, it's not just the light, it also will text people in that area, just to give them a kind of forewarning. Again, it hasn't been an issue yet. Can it be an issue in the future? I don't want to
Don't we
say.
have a system where we can email folks when we have closures of roads?
Absolutely, it's just this is on the ground 24/7, so it will recognize it before we do.
So it
there'll be a few minutes.
doesn't require a staff or two to see it? Okay.
Exactly. It's a sensor that automatically will measure the water
Okay.
and send a message to us and the residents without us having to do anything. And, we don't have a lot of officers kind of patrolling the city, so we can't now, if there's a rain event, we'll ask them to kind of focus on that area, but they can be on 911 calls, so there's no guarantee they're going to be on that site as well. Yeah.
And I do know, based on the phone calls I got last year, there were a few cars, I couldn't give you the exact numbers, that did have rain damage, the water damage in them from that flash flooding. We'd probably have to go back, Daryl, we'd probably have to go back a little, and unfortunately, the people that have been around for a while that actually dealt with some really flash flooding are no longer here.
100-year type?
But not even that.
Okay.
I remember when my brother was in the fire department, he was a volunteer firefighter for 10 years, where they had many a time had to shut down the street because of the flash flooding.
Again, I'm not opposed. If the dais wants to pay for the flashing lights, I'm fine with it. I just think that
I would support it because it doesn't require staff to see the problem. It's an automatic thing. It's automatic notification. So that's why I would support this. And even if it's looking at the cost here, that's a drop in the bucket compared to the cost for the projects themselves.
Right.
So.
Plus, the last thing we need is the children back there playing in those streams on Manassas Drive and the flash flooding occur.
And I think that was the concern last time, is residents didn't have a heads up about the situation. So I think that the sensors buys us time for this
Right.
to get this implemented.
Okay.
And the 5,000 is for
Any other comments?
both signs?
Yeah, it's the total maintenance.
25 each?
Yeah, I mean, those were prices back then. We've been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
Right, so there's been pieces. We waited for the Bowman study as well.
Can you?
We'll have to
can you
go back
repeat
out
the
and
question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, the 5,000, I was asking if that was for both signs or just one?
And
it
what
was
was
for
the
both.
answer?
It was
For
both
both.
at the time that we got this, but we received those quotes, I would say at least 6 months ago. We were waiting for the Bowman results to finalize before coming back to present this all to you.
So I just want to clarify that these signs are going to be on the road.
They would be on the
They're
road.
not going to be over by the storm ponds or creeks.
No, on the roads.
road.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we don't want signs, right, if you just want the sensors that text people, we can do that as well.
That was my next question, was like, can we pick like an à la carte type of thing, say, we don't want the signs and just to have the messaging?
We could, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
But the risk is if someone's driving, what if they're not checking?
yeah, I mean, if they're not
text?
going to see their
Yeah.
phone on while they're driving,
Yeah.
right?
I
But
think-
it's good to avoid it if they get a notification before they head out. You know what
But in
I'm
all honesty, I think we can find $5,000 in the budget every year.
saying? Oh, I was just looking at other solutions here.
Yeah,
but-
I don't think we should try to cut corners that way. I really don't. I'm in favor of adding it to the CIP. Like you say, that's step one.
Right.
But the other question I don't understand is that how is it only 2 signs when you have multiple locations? I mean,
No, it's 2 sites. So for Manassas Drive, it would be 1 sign in one direction eastbound, 1
Right.
sign westbound. Kent is one way, so it'd be upon the entrance of Kent.
Oh, it's one
So it's a
way.
total of three signs.
so there
But
wouldn't
it's
be...
2 sites. So we're charged per site.
Oh, per site,
Yeah.
I see,
Mhm.
okay.
Okay. So that's 15,000 per site?
Yes.
3 sites, okay. Are we in agreement to put this into the CIP?
Yes.
Yes.
What is your, okay. CIP,
CIP.
Okay,
CIP?
yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Okay, yes, we're in agreement. Okay. Do you need any other decision points
No,
from us?
that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you to staff for a great presentation.
Here, here.
Okay, moving on, we have no unfinished business, so we'll move into new business. National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program.
Good evening again.
So did we already do consent? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
You weren't here yet.
Consent has been voted on
No
and
questions?
approved.
Great.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, I was asking about the consent. You guys already voted on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Because there was an item on there, I was going to see if we could make a motion to remove from consent and have a discussion on.
Well, it's already been decided, but what was the?
Item 9A, the
Okay.
vehicle, 10,000-pound vehicle ordinance.
Okay, what do you want to say about it? Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Have your say.
No, I mean, I guess we all received an email recently. There's some personal vehicles that are not considered commercial vehicles that are over 10,000 pounds. And, you know, there's a lot of residents that have those type of vehicles, and now they might use it for personal. So my concern is we're telling them now they can't park their personal vehicle on the street. You know, so my suggestion was going to be to remove the weight and just see and have either a commercial tag license or any signage dictating that's what a commercial vehicle is, but you know, by definition.
So
Laszlo.
just to clarify, so right now, the law is 9,000 above, so this would make it easier or better for residents, right? Who may be impacted. But what you're talking about is opening up the entire law, the entire definition of commercial vehicle, which includes certain non-commercial vehicles in that definition. But that would include opening up the entire law and going over piece by piece, because there's a lot of definitions associated with it. And so I think we would have to revisit the entire law if that's the governing body wanted to do. In terms of definitions, we'd have to bring those definitions back for review.
Yeah, I mean, I did some research too. I mean, there's some pickup trucks that are over 10,000 that people are using for just personal use. So, I mean, I don't think that's fair that we're ticketing them for their personal vehicle now. You know what I'm saying?
I just had a question for the city manager. I thought we had clarification on commercial vehicles that they had to have like a ladder or a
That's what I'm saying.
sign.
Yeah.
So it's more than just the vehicle. Is it just the vehicle or is it these
No,
other components?
there's a type, again, there's a list of a
Right.
full definition.
Pictures.
Yeah, let me open up the definition here. But it's part of the agenda item, has all the components of the definition. You guys want me to read the definitions?
Was it in the ordinance?
Yeah, it's in the ordinance because
Yeah, I think
I just changed the weight, but the full definition is there. Give me 1 second here.
I think I read it. But yeah, I mean, if they had a ladder or a signage, you can
Yeah.
determine that those are commercial vehicles.
Correct. So it starts off with, solid waste collection vehicles, again, commercial, dump truck, concrete mixers, heavy construction equipment, any truck or van in which food or beverages are stored, any vehicle including a bus licensed for use as a common or contract carrier such as limousine, or as a limousine, any vehicle displaying the name of a business or commercial venture, and any truck or other vehicle including pickup trucks on which is mounted or carried construction or commercial equipment, any truck or other vehicle including pickup trucks or vans which are mounted or carried racks for construction materials, but exempt are racks designed for sports or for other items that they list here, like carrying tools, a van which lacks side windows or other than the front driver. So I don't think there is no definition. Hold on here, large non-commercial vehicle. Actually, yeah, then down below is the definition of a large non-commercial vehicle. Any non-commercial truck, van, or other vehicle that has a weight of 10,000 pounds or more. So that would be the one
So that's the one I'm referring
that you would want to edit. That point I is what the point I is the one that says has a weight of 9,000 pounds or more. Currently, we're recommending changing it to 10,000. Definition 2 says has more than 2 axles. 3 has more than 6 wheel surfaces. And 4 exceeds a total length of 24 feet. So that section is the one that you want to revisit.
I think so. I mean, that's my personal belief. What everybody else thinks. I just don't think it's fair if people have those big pickup trucks that are considered non-commercial use to be ticketed.
Well, they can still park on their driveway though, right?
No.
Unless
Well,
they
the permitted,
use it.
yeah. That's the permitted vehicle definition, which would be a commercial vehicle with a weight of less than 10,000.
Is it possible for them to get a waiver from city?
Oh, actually, it's a large non-commercial vehicle with a weight of less than 15,000 pounds. So if you have a non-commercial, a personal vehicle that's less than 15,000 pounds, you can park it on your driveway.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So I guess you'd have to find a personal use pickup truck that's more than 15,000 pounds. And I don't know if that exists or not. I'd have to look
That
at
would be
it.
huge.
Yeah.
It'd be like a monster truck, wouldn't it?
I've seen people drive it. They don't have those like big tires.
We
Or,
don't want them on our road.
yeah. Well, then, I mean, then the questions is like, okay, if they have commercial vehicles they're parking on the driveway, then they're going to have to move that non-commercial vehicle on the street.
For the very few trucks that might apply to, could they get a special sticker or waiver from city manager? You know,
For
like-
a truck that's over 15,000 pounds, or?
I don't think there is.
No, like I'm saying is like, say they have a work vehicle, they're parking their commercial vehicles on the driveway, they have the pickup truck as a personal use, they're parking that on the street, which is over 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, instead of the waiver again, I wouldn't want staff to get in that business. I would just change 10,000 to 15,000 for the definition of a large non-commercial vehicle, just to make it consistent with the permitted vehicle definition.
Yeah, I'll agree. That's a good compromise.
Say it again?
That is.
Yeah, so the large non-commercial vehicle definition should change point I, which says it has a weight of 9,000 pounds or more. Right now, that I recommended 10,000 pounds. If we just say 15,000 pounds, it will make it equivalent to the permitted vehicle definition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Works for me
Does
too.
everyone
Thank you.
agree?
That's
That's
fine.
fine.
Okay.
Okay, now the question is,
So Dean can bring that back?
well, yeah, that's what, because we had a public hearing on this for 10,000 pounds. Dean, I'm guessing we'd have to hold a new public hearing
No.
for the 15,000 pounds?
No.
Well, yeah, we already held the public hearing, so we'd have to have another one. I have a question for you. So the definition of a commercial vehicle, we're still using the 10,000 pounds for a tow truck, right? So, are we going to have a problem, distinguish between a 15,000 private non-commercial vehicle and a 10,000 pound vehicle that is used to tow?
Well, that would be
I
considered.
mean, you get those trucks, like you get a pickup truck. The pickup truck can be a tow truck.
I guess they'd have a special equipment on them though, right? The 10,000 pound
Well,
tow
they
truck.
would. They would, but then we have to look and see, let's see, it said a non-commercial, said that just having certain equipment on the non-commercial vehicle doesn't make it a commercial vehicle. So
Yeah.
you look down, let's just see.
We'd have to see, I guess, if they have the equipment specifically to become a tow truck, then PD would ticket them.
Right.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, I'm just scanning through. It doesn't look like we have an inconsistency, so that's good.
But we need to come back with a new public hearing to deliberate on this.
Well, so this is one of those things where we do public hearings. The governing body does public hearings, but it's not mandated by law. It's just a practice of the governing body. So if there's a desire to not, to just go ahead and amend it without having another public hearing, you're not going to be violating a law. You'd be, violating your own process. So it's really, what do you want to do? Is it that big of a deal where you cannot come back for another public hearing? It's very easy just to do it next meeting.
Well, if we don't need a public hearing, then there's no point to having the public hearing. We can just bring it back to the next meeting, right?
Yeah, we can.
Well, I think I misspoke then. So the public hearing is something you guys do. It's set up your process to have a public hearing for any code change. Okay, you've had a public hearing, you've closed it. What was discussed there is before you here tonight. If you decide that you want to not use your normal process, then yes, you could go ahead and amend it, bring it back to you next week. Or you could go ahead and do the normal process, have a public hearing at your next meeting, and then vote on it at the second meeting in December. So it really comes down to what your preference is.
Well, they can vote on it on the same night. I mean, they don't always do that, but because this issue...
You could do that too, yeah.
This issue's already been discussed so much, my recommendation is we do public hearing at the next meeting and same night vote. Because we've been discussing weight now for the last 2 weeks.
That's fine.
And this is something that, quite frankly, people might want to show up and express their opinion on.
Right.
That's a pretty big change from 10,000 to 15,000.
Right, and I actually just did a Google search on trucks that weigh more than 10,000 pounds, or actually weigh less than 15,000 pounds. And according to the California Energy Commission, its medium and heavy-duty vehicles have a gross weight rating of more than 10,000 pounds and includes vans, buses, and trucks. And then another one actually gave like the names of the type of trucks. So like a Chevrolet, of course, is a 1996 Chevrolet 3500 pickup four-wheel drive that weighs like at least 9,400 pounds. It can tow up to 13,500 pounds.
I'm also thinking of what they call a dually, the dualies that have the dual set of tires.
Right.
That might fall into the category of more than 10,000 pounds.
Could be.
Yeah. I don't know that much about trucks.
I don't know either.
Okay.
So when we decide public hearing and then vote the same night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Dean?
Hold on, I have a question.
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay.
I have a question, though.
But I will tell you that I just looked it up, and it says a dually is usually about 9,200 pounds. So
At what, Dean?
with the pay, so 9,200 pounds.
9,200.
Yeah.
Okay.
So since we already voted on this underneath the consent agenda, do we have to do anything else to undo the vote?
Yes.
Well, you don't have to undo it. You're just going to have to do another a change next time. You'll have another public hearing. You now you could vote to rescind the previous vote if you wanted to. It's still the same meeting. I think we have that in our new governing body procedures. So if you wanted to go ahead and rescind that vote, you could.
I don't think it's necessary.
What's the advantage?
No, we'll just
What
fix
is
it
the
next time.
advantage?
we're not going to send this down to Muni Code until after the next meeting anyway, so.
Okay, so there would be no point to rescind.
I don't see a point, because if you
No,
guys
I mean, right now it's-
disagree with 15,000 pounds, then it just defaults back to 10,000 pounds, which you, instead of having to take another vote again for 10,000 pounds.
Yes, what you said.
Okay.
So we just leave as is and we move on?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's,
But you want to have a public hearing at the next meeting for 15,000 though, right?
Correct.
right.
And a vote
That's my
later that
understanding.
night.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is everybody happy?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, okay. Okay, National League of Cities Service Line Warranty. Thank you, Alan. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I'm here at your pleasure. Anyway, good evening. Thank you again. On the line, we do have Emily Zambolini from the Service Line Warranties of America. In case there's any questions that I can't answer, she'll be available. Just to give you just a little bit of background, it's amazing. A lot of people do not completely understand the water and the sewer systems. The city maintains a very large water distribution system for getting water to homes and a sanitary sewer system for taking the wastewater away. But there is a gap in the ownership between the public system and the owner. Between the property line and the house, that sanitary sewer lateral and that water service belong to the homeowner. And the problem long-term is most of the time, there's no real problem with them. But when they fail, the cost can be catastrophic. So the National League of Cities has developed a service line warranty program that people can participate in to cover those large costs if and when they occur. Staff have reviewed the materials, and there are some pros and there's some cons. I'm just going to kind of go down the list real quickly. The program they developed does educate homeowners about their ownership responsibilities. They will handle all the public outreach. The warranty coverage is up to $8,500 per repair incident, which would be for a leaking, clogged, or broken water or sewer service outside the home, up to $3,000 coverage per repair incident for water and sewer plumbing repairs inside the home. Includes coverage for freezing of external water lines. And there are no annual or lifetime limits, deductibles, service fees, forms of paperwork, and availability is 24/7, 365. Repairs are made only by licensed local contractors. And this is really important. This is not a reimbursement program. The contractor bills the NLC directly, and the property owner only makes payments if the amount exceeds the maximum coverage per incident. The disadvantages: the property owner is responsible for costs above the coverage limits. Separate contracts are required for each service provided, so there would be one contract for the external water line, one contract for the sanitary service, and one contract for in-home plumbing. The initial costs are $575 per month for the external water line service plan, $775 per month for the sewer service line plan, and $999 per month for internal plumbing and drainage plan. Now, the contractor does want to use the city's logo on its outreach materials. They typically do 3 mailings per year. The city will need to assign a staff member, probably me, to field inquiries, because anything with a city logo is going to spark inquiries. The program does not cover property damage. So if, for instance, your water line in your home breaks and your carpet is ruined, that's not part of their service. Their service is a repair service. The city, there is a small revenue stream to the city. It's 50 cents per month per participant, and participation rates at the low end go from 8 to 10%, and at the higher end, 25 to 30%. Based on the 10 and 30% participation rate for 4,500 water accounts, this would amount to $2,700 to $8,100 a year. which is really nothing to get excited about. The high cost of water and sewer repairs can be huge and an unexpected burden to homeowners. It should be emphasized this is a voluntary program, but it could provide welcome relief to someone who participates and needs it. Therefore, staff recommend that the city make this program available to the homeowners in Manassas Park. And by the way, this is just for homeowners. It doesn't cover commercial properties.
And I just wanted to thank council members Moore and Amaya for bringing this to our attention.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. This is a very good program, and well, best of all, it's voluntary. The company is Home Serve, is that correct?
I believe, Emily?
Yes, that is the parent company.
Okay.
We administer the program.
What is their track record? I mean, since we're going to be allowing them to use the seal of the city for their promotional material, we want to make sure that they have a good track record.
I spoke to 3 or 4 public works departments. There have been some bumps in the road on some of them. A lot of times it depends a lot on the quality of the local contractors because they do contract locally. The people I've spoken to, once they've been contacted, have been able to work through the issues, and it seems to be working well in other communities.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions? Anyone?
Down here.
Yes, ma'am.
To me, it's no different than some through Novak, you're able to get similar type of services. So to me, it's a win-win, I think. Yeah, I mean, I figured out $350 a year. That's far cheaper than having to go having to dig up your front yard and replace that pipe.
I've heard anecdotal stories of people spending up to $20,000. Now that's, of course, I was working for another community, and this is where you owned the service lateral all the way to the sanitary line, all the way to the main and the street. And if you have a home that has a basement, that means there's a lot more excavation because the service lateral has to be below the basement level. So it can get very pricey if you're having to go down 15 feet and replace 100 feet of line.
Yeah. I mean, $350 is nothing compared to $20,000.
Yeah. No, it's a good deal, and it's voluntary. So,
It's voluntary.
yeah. Any other comments or questions? Comments or anyone? Okay. Thank you, Ellen. The staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve participation in the service line warranty program sponsored by the National League of Cities, which will make the program available to the homeowners of the city of Manassas Park, and direct the city manager to negotiate and sign an agreement with Service Line Warranties of America to advertise and implement the program as presented and subject to final review by city attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Okay, 11B, Manassas Drive lighting analysis.
And actually, Calvin, before you get started, just kind of way of background. So we've heard from residents, and especially Councilmember Maya, who's been organizing an effort to get Novec to kind of enhance lighting on the west side of the city. Calvin and his team set up some meetings with Novec. They came back with an LED option that we'll be showing you guys here in the future. But as part of this, we wanted to bring forth a light study recommendation so we can see not just replacement of existing lights with now LED lights, but where do we have gaps in coverage for lighting along Manassas Drive, even with the LED changeover. So that's what Calvin's going to discuss tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Rischel, Vice Mayor Mensing, residents, staff, guests. I'm Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development. Staff were charged with discussing with Novec the possibility of upgrading the lighting, especially on the west side of the city. Novec does maintain those lights. Those lights were originally installed in an old agreement with Novec, and Novec provides power and maintenance for those fixtures. They are currently high-intensity discharge fixtures. When we say that term, high-intensity discharge, we're talking about like metal halide, mercury vapor, the the lights that used to power the tops of all of our warehouses and all of our outside lighting, but nowadays we have LEDs. And LEDs tend to offer more light for less consumption, and that's what we're looking for in this case. They can also offer the same amount of light with less consumption, but here we've already got circuits installed, we've already got the ability there. If we put LED fixtures, they can be much brighter than what's currently there, and that's the hope, is that we can actually increase the lighting without increasing the size of the circuit or without increasing the number of fixtures in general. But a lighting study would be required to see what exactly we have and what we can do. Wallace Montgomery has given us a proposal to study the existing condition through a photometric analysis of what's already out there, and give us essentially a map of a photometric map of what's out there, and then to show us what it would look like with LED upgrades. And those would be hopefully brighter, higher output LED fixtures. And then they would produce roll plots, which are actually like for linear projects, big long maps showing the entire Manassas Drive corridor and what the photometrics would look like existing, what they would look like after the LED upgrades. And then there were a proposed cost for any, a cost for any proposed improvements that may come aside from just Novec changing out the fixtures for LEDs. And then they would also provide project coordination. That was the base proposal, but then there were some options, and the options included a field survey of existing conditions to go fixture by fixture, look at the actual wattage of the fixture, the height of the fixture, to get better detail for the photometric analysis. And then another option was to actually look at the signalized intersections, look for opportunities to co-locate lights on existing signal poles and things like that, and also to look at the pedestrian crossings and see if they are currently well lit. And to do that same thing, another option to look at the non-signalized intersections, to look at the sidewalks in the area, to look at the pedestrian crossings, and see where we could add some additional light just to improve pedestrian safety. The base cost was $18,370. Staff are recommending that we also pursue those options. With the options, that does bring it up to $35,470, but that then again does focus on looking at every intersection and maximizing pedestrian safety.
And just to add, so we're asking to charge this funding to the Manassas Drive traffic study or safety study that we've been kind of working on piecemeal with the HSIP grant that we got for over $1 million to improve crosswalks, the complete street study. So we're kind of doing it in chunks, the Polk Drive signal, the Scott Drive speed hump. We're looking at, based off the town halls that I did for the downtown development. In the east side, there was a demand for evaluation again of what we can do for speeding along Manassas Drive between Carondelet and further up in Stephanie, and I went out with PD and checked it out, and we did catch some speeding there as well. So we're evaluating what to do there in terms of potential speed humps there as well. So there's a comprehensive approach being taken right now by Manassas Drive, for Manassas Drive, but it's kind of being done in phases, and this lighting analysis is an important part of safety as well.
Yeah, I can see that. Comments or questions?
Yeah, I just want to thank Colin for the excellent report and thorough. But I also want to thank Councilmember Maya for bringing this to our attention, for collecting the signatures and doing the hard work to get this before us tonight. Thank you. I think our citizens will appreciate the fact, thumbs up, that we're going to get better lighting in our community. So I think that's very great.
Yeah, I'll definitely say Novec started paying attention to our emails more after they got the signatures.
The signatures,
That was the objective, yes.
Very good.
yeah, it's powered by numbers. Yeah.
Okay, so is there a consensus to proceed with all 8?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense because it would be more comprehensive. Dean, the motion that you sent to me did not contain any reference to the $35,470.
Well, I think that since it's consensus and you're going to bring something back to vote on, I don't think you need to vote right now. You already have your consensus to move forward.
Yeah, and it's also within my spending limit as well.
Okay.
And it's in the CIP, so that's why we just wanted your guidance on, do you want us to
Perfect,
proceed with it or
okay.
not?
So consensus will be sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we all want all 8, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all
Yeah.
package.
Councilmember Javed?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
And you do have direction, Laszlo. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 11C, 2024 legislative priorities.
Hey, sir. Oh, there we go.
I trust everyone's had the opportunity to read through the priorities list.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. I'll be quick here. So the changes from last year include the yellow highlighted from city staff, the turquoise. This is recommended removal by Councilmember Carrera, green additions by the mayor, and then I added over the weekend per discussions at the last meeting we had this gray one. For us to have a little bit more teeth as we go after certain violations like cars and driveways where people can just immediately, fix the issue and then it keeps coming back as an issue, or to kind of speed up. We have a lot of issues with people doing permitted work and taking a very long time. They're leaving, or not getting back to us to kind of give us progress, or unpermitted work that's done. That's, they're taking time saying we're working on permits, we have to go back to court. There's a lot of different issues that drag out that our residents, are complaining about, that being able to issue fines would potentially speed up the process of getting compliance.
Okay, thank you. Let's get a sense for where the governing body is leaning. Who is in favor of the legislative priority list as it is written right now?
No
Without taking off
changes?
things?
No changes?
Huh?
Without taking off?
With taking off nothing?
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Councilmember Maya?
So are we voting on the changes that are proposed, or the way that it was given to us previously?
It would be as it is written,
Right now.
and nothing would be taken off.
Okay, yeah, now I'm in favor of that.
I'm sorry?
I'm in favor of the way
Okay,
that's.
okay. And I know Councilmember Carrera, your vote is no.
My vote is no, but I'd like to make a statement. There's no way I can support allowing expungement for felonies, especially on violent crime. There are children who commit kill multiple people, do malicious wounding, do armed robbery, do terrorist threats, shoot up schools. There's no way I can support an expungement for that. And as a jail board member, I've been around probably 200 people who've committed homicide, and there's no way I can support that.
I would have to say I agree with Councilmember Carrera, and part of that is because family and law enforcement. Just because you're youth doesn't mean that you should be exempt. Perhaps maybe what we can do is add something in here that details the type of crime. Maybe if it's like a misdemeanor, maybe they have their thing expunged, but if it's a felony, no.
I think it gets a little complicated because the threshold between misdemeanor and felony has changed.
Yeah, it
over the
has.
years, yeah.
Felony is usually classified in all 7 as a.
I'm sorry, speak a little.
A felony, all 6 of them are, and the U is all classified as violent. So, but I've been on I don't know if anybody knows this, I was on the grand jury for the sniper, and when he was a juvenile, and I actually saw the photographs of the homicide at Home Depot, Linda Franklin. And I saw his confession, which was never released to the public, and the laughter it was. And I can't accept that in the community. And no one should. The victims have got a life sentence.
Okay. Do we have comments on this? Would you like to comment, Councilmember Moore or
We'll skip over
Vice Mayor
Councilmember
Mensing?
I just have a question, and perhaps I don't know, but Mr. Carrera, it says you can only have your thing expunged if you were 1, acquitted, 2, the government decided not to prosecute you, 3, the charges were dismissed, or 4, the crime was committed by someone using your identity. So this is not for people who were found guilty of their crime. This is not for like a school shooter.
If
Situation.
a lot of sentencing, depending on the Commonwealth attorney, as you may hear in the news, a lot of charges are dropped. especially in the county that I work for. That's been a big issue. The Commonwealth Attorney of Loudoun County just lost her seat because of a lot of this, because a lot of charges are not brought. And this has been an issue. It's been a political issue. I don't want to really get into politics about it. Again, this allows a leeway for that, for people who have been violent, have committed violent crimes. I've been around juveniles who have committed a series of crimes, and they're low beef, but later on they committed violent crimes. I was at Hampton Roads Regional Jail about a month and a half ago. There's a lady who stabbed her 2 children, killed one of them 60 times, a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. She actually committed suicide 2 weeks ago. She had a criminal record when she was a juvenile. Now, I can't, in that situation, accept, at least for me, allow an expungement in other cases when it looks like it's violent trends to something else.
Okay.
And I think this is really for the General Assembly to deal with. I don't think it's really an issue that at a local locality we should be dealing with or discussing. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of this priority. This whole list, we can't do any of this list. We're sending this to our legislators,
Right.
like Michelle Maldonado and Danica Rome, to push our agenda for us.
Right.
And so, you know, we could ask them how they feel about these things. I mean, this is talking about individuals that have turned themselves around and have made positive changes in their lives. We're not talking about someone who's happy that they've shot up the school or anything like that, or committed crimes, but people that have made substantive changes in their lives as young people. And again, this is just our list that we're sending to our legislators. It's nothing we're implementing tonight. We don't have that power or the authority. So I want to keep it in. It's been there for a while.
I would say to keep it in because of the phrase "have proven to make a positive change
Yes,
in their lives."
exactly.
That's an important phrase.
It is absolutely correct.
Yeah. Okay, so,
I think you should say it on video.
okay, so shall we go ahead and take the vote? Okay. That the governing body review, amend, and approve okay, so the recommended motion that the governing body approve the legislative agenda to send to our state representatives for consideration during the 2024 General Assembly session beginning on January 10th, 2024, as presented.
So
Do we have a
moved.
motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Opposed?
Just me.
Abstain?
And I'm going to
Opposed.
abstain.
You're going to abstain?
opposed?
Okay. Lena, did you get that?
We have 2
Councilmember
abstentions
Carrera
and a-
was.
No, one abstention, one opposed.
And he
One
was an
opposed.
abstention.
Okay. Guerrero
Okay.
opposed, okay.
And the rest were yeses. Okay. Okay. Moving on to 11D, funding commitment letter for BRIC grant for storm drain projects. Alan, we're just working you to death tonight.
I know. We haven't seen Alan all year.
Yeah.
It's a good day. Well, we've been talking tonight about grants for storm drainage projects, and this is a piece of that.
Okay. Is your mic on?
Hello?
Is it turned on?
Say it's red.
Got to push the button.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you, Laszlo.
Thank you.
Sorry. So basically, this is a part of our first grant application. We're working with Merchant McIntyre. We're putting together a grant application to fund the first 2 priority projects that are on this list here that was in the previous presentation. One is the Lower Kent Drive project at that sag in the road that was talked about earlier. And the other one is along Lower Manassas Drive, up off of, over by the Baptist church that's there. Anyway, the grant application requires a commitment letter from the governing body for 25% of the total project cost. Now, you'll notice that the total project cost listed in this grant application is $3,148,750, which is considerably more than the price tag that is listed for the first 2 priority projects in the list. The reason for that is I've made some estimates of engineering costs and construction management costs and put in a hefty contingency because, once we're down the road of building the project, we can't go back and ask for more grant money. but I think the estimate is pretty reasonable. So what we're presenting here tonight is a funding commitment letter from the governing body to assure them that the city will cover the $787,188, which would be 1/4 of the total project cost.
Comments or questions? Comments or questions? Councilmember Javed, you look like you have a question.
Yeah, I do have a question. Thank you. So the 787,000, which is not budgeted right now, so where's the, I guess?
Well, some of it is budgeted according to the information here, but it should be remembered that we're promising that we will pay the 25%, but of course, if the governing body decides not to take the grant, then we don't have to spend the money.
So at that point, remember, we just talked about in the presentation how we're going to fund this slowly over many years. That 787,000 now would be funded, over a year or 2 years, right? As part of probably over 2 years as part of the project. So it would come from the money that we would be spending anyways on these projects, but by getting this grant, it just speeds up the process for getting these projects done.
So that's the 20%?
25.
Yeah,
25% of the
Yeah.
$3 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is far cheaper than if we paid the whole thing out of pocket.
Okay. Councilmember Moore, do you have a question?
Thanks, Alan, for the presentation. What are our chances of getting the grant? Is it competitive? How is it going to be ranked and judged?
That's a tough question because you never know how many people are going to be applying. One of the things that's interesting is this is actually FY23 money, so FEMA's kind of behind the curve on issuing their grants. I think we have a once I really looked at the grant application, I think we have a better chance than I thought when I first saw it, because this is being managed out of Virginia DEM, and emergency services people are very, very concerned typically about access. So these projects will help reduce the chance that roads will be blocked during severe rainfall events. So that's the hook we're kind of hanging the grant on. It's not like sewage treatment plants being threatened by a flood.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
it depends on the competition.
It's going to depend on the competition. That's
Yeah,
exactly
okay.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, thank you, that was great.
Questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. The recommended motion is that the governing body authorize and direct the city manager to sign a funding commitment letter to complete the BRIC grant application as presented and subject to final review by city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 11E, recruitment support for Department of Social Services.
All right. Good evening again, Madam Mayor and members of the governing body. This is an emergency procurement. We've had a lot of turnover in our social services department, especially in the really in the family services division. We've lost our senior leadership, and tonight one of them, we honored her for her retirement, and she's the supervisor of the entire program. So once she leaves, we'll officially be down to one, experienced social worker level 3. Currently, that's her rank. So we would be down 2 social worker level 2s, or family services special level 2s, and then the supervisor. I mean, the 3 may become a supervisor. That's still to be seen. But the point is that we're down in terms of leadership. We've been able to fill the level 1 employees, right? But a lot of them are newer employees, which we get a lot of always, and we're very grateful and lucky to be able to recruit talent at that age as well. But we need some experienced help as well. Randy's had to fill in managing cases. She hasn't had to do so in over a decade. So we're really struggling in that department. So what I'm asking for tonight, some emergency procurement, tapping into that surplus that I mentioned earlier tonight, to give Randy some additional resources here to help recruit experienced staff members to her team, including offering signing bonuses, which is similar to what Fairfax County does for after kind of year 1. Like you join, and after year 1 you get the bonus. Here we're going to use it just as a signing bonus to recruit experienced people, and then additional salary thrown onto it for our advertisement to be more competitive in recruitment of experienced social workers here for the Family Services Division. This would, you'd be increasing the budget by about $36,000, but the net cost to our taxpayers would be $21,821 because of our ability to seek reimbursement through
that's not
85A
much at
code.
all.
So, yeah, so we're asking for the $21,000 to be added, or the net $21,000 to be added to equip the Family Services Division with experienced employees.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is so very important. I mean, we can just imagine that Randy is probably worked to death. You know, we don't want to grind you into the ground. So yes, this is extremely important. Comments or questions? No? I have a question. I know that every department is different, but, and I also know that we have problems recruiting first responders. Is there any way to do something similar for our first responders?
Yeah, we're always looking at that, right? So we've taken different actions before. So remember, the stipend program was one of the tools we utilized for police and fire. We also did some increase in pay as well. Unfortunately, our competitors keep doing the same thing. So we're constantly going to be looking at market salaries and making those adjustments. But I think the stipends was our approach, our first approach for public safety officers. For public works, we front-loaded some of their ARPA pay raises early to kind of help with recruitment. At that time, we raised the minimum wage, remember, to be a little bit more competitive, the entry-level pay of our crew workers. So we've taken action, across our city, but we've had to deal with emergencies as they come up. We're taking a proactive approach in terms of market adjustments. We just don't have all the resources to close that market gap right now, but this is so emergency related that we need to get this up and running. The Family Services Division manages our child protective services, our foster care kids. We need them to be equipped with
And I
resources.
absolutely agree that we needed to do this for DSS, but I also know that the police department has trouble recruiting. So that's why I asked that question. Are you currently looking at any mechanisms?
I'm still evaluating because we've done a little bit better with recruitment. So if it gets to emergency levels again, then we may, or if there's positions that we're struggling to fill, which exists across the city. So I may have to come back wholesale. The building official, we haven't been able to recruit that in over 3 years. The stormwater program manager, we haven't been able to recruit those. I know those are different departments, but property and evidence for police, we haven't been able to recruit at this point. So there's different positions across the city that we've struggled with recruitment. So if you'd like, I can let you know what those are during the budget amendment so we can discuss what
That would
the
be
approaches
helpful.
are.
That would be good information to have. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
What's the vacancy rate in public safety, and what's the vacancy rate? How many FTEs are you down?
It just depends because at one point they were down all of their level 1, which was 6 out of 8 employees. So you can look at
what is the public safety? Police
last year was around 25% vacancy as well. Fire has gotten a lot better. So fire and police flip. And so in my first few years here, fire was struggling with a lot of loss of employees. They were over 20%. They've kind of stabilized, and now it's PD. But again, over the last few months, PD's gotten better as well.
And that includes the 911 dispatching as well, right?
Yeah, the dispatchers were still having issues. We're down two right now.
Okay. Yeah. There's only 4, right?
No, there's about 7 or 8.
Okay.
I'd have to check with Chief Lee on exactly.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay. Staff recommended motion is that the governing body authorize the city manager to add $36,369.85 to the FY24 budget amendment to support the Social Services Department with recruitment of experienced senior staff at the Family Services Division.
Second.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Oh,
I second, sorry.
I couldn't hear.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to public comment time. It's our second public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment at this time? Okay, seeing no one and hearing no one, we move on to city manager's report.
All right, good evening. Tonight I have a presentation before you. So a few years ago, I brought forth for discussion a consideration for our city, because we always are confused with the city of Manassas around this region, for a potential name change of the city. That was quickly shot down. There was no desire to do that at that time, but ongoing discussions with governing body members made it clear that we were all kind of confused why our main street of our city is named after a totally different city or neighbor that we're always confused with as well. So I'm bringing forth kind of tonight a proposal for your all's discussion to see if you're even interested in doing something like this. So why Manassas Drive? Talking to Ms. Lana Connor, this is historical, right? It was part of those original developments there on the west side. The area of the county there, it was considered to be the area called Manassas. There was no city of Manassas back then, so all that area was part of the greater Manassas. You can technically still say outside of our city that's the case with the county, but now that area is called Yorkshire. There is an independent city named Manassas now that we constantly get confused with outside of our city. We're an independent city now. We're not even a town. Or an unincorporated area like we were when that subdivision of Manassas Park was developed. So that name, again, the reasons, again, are no longer valid for that name. And the question is, again, why is our main street, why is the main road that bisects our city named after our neighbor, right? So this happens in some other areas, right? You have Fairfax Avenue in Arlington. That's a pretty major road, but does anyone ever confuse Arlington with Fairfax County? Do they not know that Arlington doesn't exist? No, of course they know Arlington exists, so it's not a problem there. It is a problem with us. So there are 4 options that I've evaluated to bring back for you all for consideration. So one, which is what I'm going to recommend, is called the Central City Solution, where we keep the name Manassas Drive outside, but in the center part of our city from Mathis Avenue to Signal View, Andrew Drive intersections, major intersections in the center part of our city, that's where we rename it. That would impact 0 residents, and that's the beauty of this solution. The goal is, my solution, or my goal was to not impact any residents with this change, and that changing the name there doesn't do that. About 7 business sites or non-residential sites would be impacted, including our own fire station, which would have to address, but businesses constantly change, right? The Shell used to be a Sunoco, right? So address changes are not as impactful for businesses. And again, residents are going to be our bigger priority to reduce impacts for our residents. The second option, if you guys want to consider that, is called the Keep History Solution, because we're not touching the west side of the city. It would just be from Mathis Avenue all the way to Blooms Park, where Manassas Drive already changes its name to Fairway Court at the end of Manassas Drive. But this would impact 146 residential units at the Park Place Senior Apartments. I don't know how many residents that would be, but the units are 146, so that would impact them, where they would have to change their addresses. Still the 7 business sites that would be impacted, including the fire station. And then all of Manassas Drive, which would include renaming all of Manassas Drive within our city borders, but that would impact 498 residential units. Again, not sure what the total number of residents that is, or adult residents, but that's the number of units, which includes the 146 that we talked about from Park Place Senior Apartments, and additional 352 residential units on the west side of the city, and then now an additional 4 business sites or non-residential sites would be impacted, including the police station and the Department of Public Works. So the 4th option is don't do anything. Just keep the status quo and keep Manassas Drive as our main street name. So this is what it looks like, the all Manassas Drive. You can see the blue line there for renaming the entire segment. So for that option, the Keep History option is everything east of Mathis Avenue, so it preserves the western part of our city as Manassas Drive as the historical name that it always was. And then the Central City is this green arrow, again, from Mathis Avenue to Signal View Drive. So even residential areas like Park 170, those are addressed off of Market Street, right? So there wouldn't be residential impacts. All the central subdivisions here, right, they're addressed off of the roads in front of them. So they would not be impacted. Another thing to point out, again, Manassas Drive already changes its name twice, naturally, not even at major intersections. So it becomes Amherst in the county, and it becomes Fairway Court once you reach Blooms Park on the east. And then there's another example of a road changing name, which is Signal View Drive here, which becomes Andrew Drive when you cross the intersection of Manassas Drive. So it happens across the state, across the country, where major roads will change names after major intersections. So this isn't a new idea here. So my recommendation, again, is the Central City Solution. Rename it to Park Avenue or Park Boulevard or whatever name you guys want to come up with. The Park Avenue, Park Boulevard were the recommendations from our branding consultants a few years ago if we were to rename it. They actually recommended that we rename it as well as part of our branding effort. So why I like this, 0 impact to our residents, right? That was priority. Again, the business turnover is constant, so the address change is less impactful, except for those businesses that are kind of more constant here, including the fire station. but we'll deal with it. Most importantly, it covers our Route 28 intersection, which is the main intersection. When people come to Manassas Park, right, the majority of the time, they're coming to Route 28, or they're passing through our city, they're going through Route 28. So when you arrive there, we're announcing you're in the park, right? You're not in Manassas, you're in the park, which is what locally we refer to Manassas Park as. So we'll announce that that residents are entering, or non-residents are coming through the park and not the city of Manassas. Again, the road changing names at major intersections is not unheard of. It preserves a historical name in the original part of Manassas Park. And the beauty of this is we'll have both Manassas and Park as the name of our main street, right? We'll have Manassas on the exterior and then the park in the center. So it keeps Manassas and Park. So you'll see intersections where both Manassas and Park are listed there, which is the full name of our city. So it kind of preserves that. And then the cost of doing this would be about $21,000 for my solution. Again, it'd be much more for the entire segment, or again, adding it east of Signal View Drive as well. If you guys want to pursue options that impact residents, my recommendation would be that we provide a $30 reimbursement per adult resident to help them with things such as changing their driver's license. And you can see the list up here of the additional impacts that residents would face if they had to change their
That $30 is a drop in the bucket compared to the inconvenience.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's just a recommendation again. But that's why I'm not recommending that solution. There's a better way to do this without impacting residents. So just wanted to bring that idea forth to see kind of what your thoughts are. If we want to pursue this, we'd have to go, of course, we would do a public hearing and then a resolution for the name change and then get that implemented in the future.
Okay, comments or questions?
I don't support this at all. As you said, Fairfax, but Fairfax City and Fairfax have the same issue with Fairfax, so there's an issue there. But the people who go to Fairfax City, they don't care if they're in Fairfax City or Fairfax County. There are people who are hardcore, and I don't think naming the city in the middle does anything of that to say you're Manassas Park. I don't think anybody would. And I think it also it brings a divide. If you have multiple names on the same street, I think Manassas Drive from one end to the other, it makes everybody feel together. There's already a division, or people feel there's a division between sides. Now, I'm fine with Manassas Drive. I think it's inconvenient for everyone to go back down and get a license, change everything. I would prefer to just keep it what is. That's my position.
I'm sorry, what was your preference?
To keep it as is.
Go ahead, yes, ma'am.
For me, I have to echo what my fellow council member said. Keep it as is. I understand the concept, but when you get down to it, we do have a geographical divide in the city. And right now, the only thing that really unifies us is that name Manassas Drive. And I was looking at the impact of the change. And you're right, Mayor, $30 is a drop in the hat.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about...
That's a short list.
Right. We're not talking about wills, having to reach out to IRS.
Absolutely. Personal memberships,
schools.
Organizations, subscriptions, periodicals.
Right.
Yeah, as a reminder, I'm not recommending that option for residents, just to clarify that.
Yeah,
and plus, my option, again, keeps Manassas Drive on both sides of the city. So it's not creating the divide, just to...
Okay. Actually, it does. I mean, because...
It doesn't, though, because the east blooms and the west has Manassas Drive.
But we just keep Manassas Drive. Let's just make us one cohesive city. My other concern with all of this is the impact upon the staff. No matter how you look at it, you've got to put in some new signs. They've got to update the addresses in the different software. You're looking at reprinting voter registration cards. Then there's the other things like reaching out to USPS, Google, the 911 system, then reaching out to Novak, Comcast, all those utility companies. Let's just keep it as is.
Okay. Do you have a comment or question?
No comment or question right now.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a supporter of number one. I like it because it does not impact any residential units. And like you said, I think it's important to have that sign on Route 28 that shows something other than advertising the city to our south. So I support number one.
I agree with our vice mayor. We need to come from the shadows of Manassas and become our own city and market our own city. It's that time. We need to grow up, put on our big pants, and become our own little city. I agree. We're not going to affect any residents with your proposal. I think what you did, Laszlo, was masterful.
Yeah.
No residents being impacted. So we don't have that false narrative that this is going to cost people a ton of money. It's not. And our city center is what we've been focusing on as a council over the last 3 years. We've done an amazing job with this building. We need to follow through and market our city in its unique and special way. And so I would definitely support number one. And I appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Councilmember Jabad?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Vice Mayor and Councilmember Moore said. I mean, when we had this whole discussion about branding our city,
Yeah.
right, especially the downtown, this was one of the focal points. Because guess what? I mean, once we come up to 2023, 2024, we're going to attract more businesses. Hopefully, that's the goal. Once we have our branding in place, once we have all our systems and infrastructures in place. So I agree. I mean, this does not impact any residential or businesses, and it focuses on our downtown. So, I mean, I would not be in favor of renaming the whole Manassas Park street, just whatever he's recommending.
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, go ahead. No,
I just have an additional comment. I very, very seldom take exception to things that are said, but to say that it's time to put on our big pants and grow up is slightly disrespectful to the residents that reached out to me earlier today.
Well, I have no idea that they reached out to you. How would I know that? They didn't reach out to me. Tell them to call me sometime.
I will next time they do.
There you go.
But part of it,
talk to them and have a conversation as to why we need to change the street to market our city to the rest of the community. The fact that they've lived here for 30 or 40 years, we're not changing their street. We're talking about the downtown.
it wasn't exactly people that have been here 30 or 40 years
whoever.
either.
If they are not living in the downtown, this affects no residents. So why are they even calling you? It's not going to affect them.
It's their city. They have a right to
I'm
call.
willing to talk to them.
Next time they folks call,
And I
go
don't
in
feel
your
they're being
direction.
disrespectful because they're not being impacted at all.
Councilmember Hampton, do you want to respond?
My only response is next time they call, I will. And it wasn't exactly folks that have been here 30 or 40 years. It was some
They could have been
newcomers.
here tomorrow.
But at the same time, I think folks feel that the fact that we're going to have signs out there saying Manassas Park also helps with the recruiting of the city. But that's all I have to say, ma'am.
What signs?
Can I say, Councilmember Moore, I understand where you're coming from. I do think it does marketing. I don't think a street has ever brought me somewhere. I mean, I go eat everywhere. We go to Arlington, we go to Alexandria, we go to DC, we go to Noma. A street never has. I can't agree if you want discretion. I would just say if we're going to do that, I've never been a fan of having separate spots. I would just say 112 Manassas Park Drive or something, or the whole thing. If we're going to do it, we just do the whole thing. Because having gaps, that's always been.
Councilmember Camaro, that was my original
when you drive
recommendation.
somewhere and you have gaps, I don't know if you ever go through Arlington, it's like you have 11th Street here, then it's here, and it's here, and it's the most it's crazy. It drives people crazy.
Councilmember Carrera, that was my original recommendation before you joined the council, that the entire street be named Manassas Park
So if we're going to do it, I think we should do the whole
Drive
thing.
or Manassas Park Boulevard. That was my
Or
original
Michael Carrera
recommendation. I'm still supportive of that, but I don't believe we have the votes on this dais because of the cost it would be to residents to do that.
Into the city.
I agree with you. I would love to have that.
I'd rather do Manassas Park Drive for the whole thing. I just don't like the gaps.
I agree.
Or Michael Carrera Drive.
Let's do it, Councilmember Carrera.
And we'll put a statue of you
That's already in
at
the
every
works.
corner.
That's in the
This is
works.
certainly
Residents.
has turned into a very passionate issue, more so than what I thought it would be. I think we've done a great job of marketing the city even without the name change. So I'm not sure that we absolutely 100% need it. Is it part of the branding process? Yes, it would be. But is it necessary? I'm not sure that it is, So I guess I lean toward doing nothing, but I can be persuaded, Did you have a comment?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
I mean, if you go to Clarendon, right?
Go to where?
Clarendon, I think it's on Arlington.
Yeah,
Wilson Boulevard,
Yeah.
the street name.
yeah.
Everybody knows Wilson Boulevard. They go for the bars, they go for the restaurants, businesses are attracted to it, customers come to it. It's a marketing in itself, right? So when you say the street name doesn't market for businesses, doesn't market people to come here, it can be. And there's other, Shirlington is another example. They have a street with all the restaurants there. I can't remember the street name, but
Shermanton Drive?
yeah. I know,
Shermanton
I've been
Village
arguing
Drive.
the street.
I don't know if you know, I work for Arlington County, and I work right in Clarendon.
Yeah,
And I
well,
walk
there
right
you
into the
go. You know
restaurant.
how
We actually
popular
met there, we
Wilson
ate there,
Boulevard
remember? But
Yeah.
it's not really the road that brings the people, and actually, it's one side is Clarendon, the other side is Wilson, it's just two different ways. It's really the atmosphere that brings the people, it's not the road. People don't say, I'm going to Arlington because it's on Wilson Boulevard. I've never heard anybody say that
Oh.
in the 23 years I've worked there.
I mean, everybody.
I said,
if
I'm
you
going
ask
to
anybody about
Arlington.
Wilson Boulevard, they know where it is. I mean,
They know it's in Clarendon because they're on the
Yeah,
road,
exactly.
but they don't go there. I don't think that drives them there.
Yeah.
I
But let's
think
just-
marketing our Park Central and marketing our plaza is going to do more than anything that we could possibly do for this city.
I just think in the future, think 10 years down the road, go over to Park Central. If we're a successful town center by then, on Manassas Drive, people are going to think that's in the city of Manassas. We say Park Avenue, they might still get confused, but well, what's Park? Why is Park the emphasis here? At least lead to that question as well. And just sounds better, Park Central and Park Avenue or Park Boulevard versus Park Central in Manassas Drive.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. That's a good point.
In that case, why don't we just do between the railroad tracks and Euclid?
28's an important intersection. I think we should highlight who we are as a city.
You don't think the signs will do that?
No.
Are you in favor of Manassas Park Drive for the whole thing?
It's a long name.
That's-
And I don't want to impact residents, so.
You're already impacting them, either way.
Yeah.
Or-
Comments or questions? Oh. Councilmember Amaya, do you have an opinion yet?
No, I'll stay with it. No opinion.
No opinion,
No.
okay. Does that mean you're going to abstain?
I'm waiting to see how you guys decide.
Well, that's-
and then, you know.
I'm sorry.
From a-
I'm waiting to see how you guys discuss and decide. I think I'm for your suggestion, just that section, but I'm just listening to everybody else's opinions.
Okay,
How about we do a public hearing?
I think that's wise.
I think so.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. let it-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we
residents
got to do a
decide.
public hearing.
I
Yeah,
think
we do.
before we
Yeah.
jump into this, we need
Exactly.
public input.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
So-
too much division on the governing body, and that could indicate division within the community.
Can Manassas Park Drive be considered for the whole thing? Can that
It's up
be,
to you
can
guys.
that be at least an option?
It's up to the residents.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's 4 options there. Can that be a 5th option? Is that fair?
Sure, that's what the residents
So
want.
are you advocating for the entire length?
I'm saying forget it. Yes, Manassas Park Drive.
Oh, my goodness, do you
I'm just saying,
realize
but
that?
but there's an option if we're, why not just have the option out there?
Sure.
Well, let the public decide.
Okay. So, yep.
Okay.
Now, is there a particular name? I threw out a couple based off of the,
I'm sorry, what?
is there a particular name you would want me to put in this public hearing? Just
Let's let
first
the-
hold the public hearing, see, do they want to rename that section or not? And then what the name should be?
Let the residents
Yeah.
decide the name.
Why don't you make it a contest, just have them
Can you-
decide.
We
the
need
name.
options, yeah.
I'll have all my
Give them
followers
the
send my name
options
in.
that you provided for us.
Do a survey, have people
Park Drive.
give us a name.
Park Boulevard.
So keep it, Park Drive, Park Boulevard, Park Avenue, and let
Something
residents
park,
pick.
yeah.
Well, maybe not Park Avenue, because then that sounds like New York City.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, not park, that
no.
sounds.
Isn't Park like the second most common after Main Street in the country?
Park Place.
I don't know.
I believe it is.
So are you going to give the public the options that you provided for us?
Yeah.
It's up to you guys. You want me just Park Drive and Park Boulevard, or also Park Avenue, all those 3, and let
Not
residents?
Park Ave.
No, but I would think you would want to make known to them all of the options that you,
Oh, I see what you're saying. You want to do a
Yes.
survey before we even do a public hearing, or do a public hearing do a public hearing just on these options and put out a survey as well for these options.
right,
And
or
then a follow-up
town
names.
question.
hall.
Yeah.
Town
Yeah,
hall.
and then a follow-up question about names. If we were to
Yeah.
rename it, what would you want to do?
Yeah, just we have to try to get some kind of input,
Yes.
yeah.
So just Park Boulevard or Park Drive? Is that what I'm, as the 2 options?
Or you can do
Or
like Park
Manassas
Central?
Park Drive.
Huh?
Michael
Manassas Park
wanted
Drive?
Manassas Park Drive.
No, Michael one and Michael
I
Carrera.
did want that second. My
heck no.
followers will, don't worry.
I think
My-
Manassas Park Drive.
My people will send that
I agree, I'm
in.
just trying to make it more
Park
cohesive.
Drive.
Manassas Park Drive.
Boulevard. What was the one you had?
Well, I was saying like Park Central.
Park
Park
Central
Central.
Boulevard or
Well, no, just Park Central.
Park Central.
How about
Yeah.
Plaza
Period.
Drive?
Plaza Drive?
Plaza Boulevard. Plaza.
Why don't you guys email me to her, or can we write all these down? There's a lot of suggestions.
That's what I'm saying.
Keith is like, no.
We'll rewatch this, how about that, and we'll write it down, and we'll create the survey. So just a public hearing to review all the options and all the name, we'll present the survey results for what names and what people
Make it
are
fun.
thinking. Okay, and then we'll also invite people for comments. and
Yeah.
everything. Okay.
So what address is this building on?
This is Park Central Plaza, so this would not be
So-
impacted at all.
So we already have
Oh, we
Park
already have
Central.
Park
That's
Central.
what I'm saying, so,
Close.
yeah, so.
Yeah, we
It's gonna be
agreed
kind
to
of
this
redundant
name
then.
like 2
It
years
would,
ago.
unless you make it Park Central Boulevard or something, I don't know.
How about putting on the Ritz?
I like that.
Or name it like they originally wanted to name the city, which was Stone Heaven.
So, okay.
Just call it Bob's Road.
You want to go back to history?
Okay, all right, so I understand what you guys.
Have we exhausted this topic?
Yes.
Okay. Dean, could you please read us into closed session?
Yes, I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to consult with the city attorney regarding a specific legal matter requiring the provision of legal advice pursuant to paragraph 8 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute comfort break.
Oh, drive.
And we'll just put a big bust of you on every.
Well, they should do that.
MC Drive.
You know why? Because it's supposed to be 30 degrees tonight.